We've all been there. You're excited. You've decided it's time for a change, and you're determined to start a new habit. Maybe it's waking up earlier, exercising regularly, reading more, or eating healthier. You start strong, feeling that initial burst of motivation, but then something happens. You miss a day, or maybe two. The enthusiasm fades, and before you know it, you're back where you started. Sound familiar? The truth is, creating new habits isn't easy. In fact, it's one of the most challenging things you can do. But why is it so hard to stick with them, even when we know they're good for us? The answer lies in the psychology of habit formation. Understanding how our brains work can make the difference between a fleeting attempt at change and lasting transformation. The power of habits. Habits are the cornerstone of success in any area of life. From small habits like making your bed every morning to larger ones like maintaining a daily workout routine, your habits shape your reality. According to a study by Duke University, 45% of our daily actions are driven by habit. That means nearly half of what we do every day is automatic, without thinking. Now, imagine if you could take control of your habits, and instead of letting them control you, you create habits that propel you toward success. The good news? It's absolutely possible, and it starts with understanding how habits are formed in the first place. The habit loop. To start building habits that stick, you need to understand the habit loop, a concept developed by researcher Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habit. The habit loop consists of three components: cue, routine, and reward. 1. Cue. This is the trigger that sets off the habit loop. It could be something external like seeing a donut in the office, or internal like feeling stressed. 2. Routine. This is the behavior or action you take once the cue occurs. It's the habit itself, whether it's grabbing the donut or going for a run. 3. Reward. The reward is the feeling you get after completing the routine. This could be a sense of pleasure, relief, or accomplishment. Here's the kicker. The brain remembers the rewards, not the behavior itself. This is why habits can be so hard to break. Your brain is trained to seek out the reward, so you keep going back for more. Why willpower isn't enough. You've probably heard this before. Just use your willpower. But let's be real. Willpower is limited. It's like a muscle. It gets exhausted the more you use it. The more decisions you have to make during the day, the weaker your willpower becomes. That's why people often fail to build lasting habits. They rely on willpower alone, and when it runs out, so do their efforts. Instead of relying on sheer willpower, the key is to make the habit easier to perform. The less energy you need to expend in starting the behavior, the more likely it is to stick. Start small. The power of tiny habits. To make a habit stick, you must start small. This is where the Tiny Habits method by Fogg comes in. The idea is simple. Break the habit into the smallest possible action. Instead of telling yourself, I'm going to work out for an hour every day, start with a small, easily achievable goal, like I'll put on my workout clothes every morning. The key here is to make the habit so easy that you can't fail. When you start small, you build momentum. Over time, you'll start to naturally expand your habit. But the key is in the initial simplicity. If you commit to doing just 1 minute of exercise, you'll likely end up doing more once you start. Make the habit obvious. One of the most effective ways to build a habit is to make it obvious. This principle comes from James Clear's Atomic Habits, where he discusses the idea of environment design. Your environment plays a huge role in shaping your habits. For example, if you want to eat healthier, don't store junk food where it's easily accessible. If you want to start journaling every morning, place your journal right next to your bed so that you see it as soon as you wake up. By making the cue for your habit obvious, you're reducing friction and making it easier for your brain to trigger the routine automatically. The less effort it takes to perform the habit, the more likely you are to stick with it. Make it attractive. Here's the thing about habits. You're more likely to stick with a habit if it's enjoyable. Think about habits you've stuck with in the past. What made them stick? Was it because you enjoyed them? The more attractive a habit is, the more likely you are to repeat it. This is why habits like eating chocolate or scrolling through social media can be so sticky. They offer immediate rewards that are hard to resist. But what about healthy habits? Can we make them attractive too? Absolutely. Pair your habit with something you enjoy. If you want to get into the habit of exercising, choose activities that are fun, like dancing or playing a sport. You could even make it a social activity by doing it with friends. The more enjoyable you make your habit, the more likely it will stick. Make it easy. The easier you make a habit, the more likely it is to stick. This doesn't mean cutting corners, but it does mean removing obstacles that make the habit harder to perform. For example, if you want to read more, start by reading 1 page a day. If you want to write every day, make it a goal to write just 1 sentence. When the habit feels effortless, it's easier to maintain. Another way to make habits easier is to automate them. Use apps, reminders, or even enlist the help of others. Automating the cues and rewards surrounding your habit will reduce the decision fatigue and make it less likely for you to forget or skip it. Track your progress. Tracking your progress is a great way to stay motivated and reinforce your new habit. Whether it's using a habit tracker or marking a calendar, the act of recording your progress is a powerful reinforcement tool. It's not just about counting days, it's about recognizing how far you've come. Seeing the streak grow can trigger a sense of accomplishment, and the desire to keep that streak alive will drive you to continue. It's the psychology of commitment and consistency. The longer you stick to your new habit, the more likely it is to become ingrained in your routine. The role of identity in habit formation. One of the most powerful ways to build lasting habits is by shifting your identity. Instead of focusing on the behavior itself, example, I want to exercise more, focus on the person you want to become. Example, I am the kind of person who works out regularly. When your habit becomes a reflection of who you are, it's easier to stick with it. This concept is central to James Clear's philosophy. He argues that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. In other words, your identity shapes the habits you create. If you identify as a healthy person, for example, you'll naturally gravitate toward healthy habits. Overcoming setbacks. Let's be real. Setbacks are inevitable. You're going to miss a day, slip up, or face obstacles. But that doesn't mean your habit is broken. It just means you need to stay resilient. The key is not to let a mistake derail your entire progress. Instead, get back on track as soon as possible. Remember, consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means getting back up every time you fall. Conclusion. Building habits that stick is no easy feat, but it's possible when you understand the psychology behind habit formation. By starting small, making your habits obvious, attractive, and easy, and tracking your progress, you can turn new behaviors into lasting habits. And when you align your habits with your identity, they'll become a natural part of who you are. Remember, you are the architect of your habits. Take control and start designing the life you want to live, one small habit at a time. Watch my previous video where I talked about distraction and ways to fight it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. It helps the algorithm to push the videos to people who needs it. See you in the next video.